that I saw in this recent documentary that has just come out. It's called Jordan Peterson Dismantled, for anybody interested, anybody that, supports Jordan Peterson. This is an interesting watch, and it's kind of changed my perspective a little bit. So the video talks about some interesting things relating to Peterson, and these need to be discussed. It's important, and I respect the video for that. There was an interesting thing. Jordan Peterson worked for the UN in 2019 until 2012. He worked with one of...
Wait, 2019 till 2000.
Oh, sorry, 2009 until 2012. Oh, okay. He worked for the UN. He worked with one of George Soros's proteges. Billionaire George Soros, banker, whatever.
The
globalist. George Soros's proteges, Jim Balessi, which was Jordan Peterson's boss at the time. And he also worked with, Jordan Peterson also worked with Mr. Spirit Cooking John Podesta in his time. On this documentary, it says he wrote a type of Marxist document outlining plans for creating equality of outcome in every country. He also attended the Rockefeller Lodge of Influential, so the Trilateral Commission in 2019. Jordan Peterson was invited, pretty sure he attended. These guys, the Trilateral Commission, these guys are known for promoting global governance. And if that isn't strange enough, Jordan Peterson, he's also been openly criticised for taking antidepressants. And in a lecture he says that the regressive nationalism in Europe is the alternative to the current state of chaos. So he's saying that the nationalism that's growing in Europe is regressive, the opposite to progressive, and promoting an individualistic approach instead of a collective, calling it dangerous. So, in a way, Peterson is promoting the same anti-white propaganda through radical individualism. Similar to the Marxists he criticises, excluding whites from being racially aware, but he wrote an article on his website about Jews having higher means IQ compared to Europeans. So, suggesting that Europeans shouldn't take pride in their heritage and culture. He was also saying that that they're trying to take credit for their ancestors, pushing us further away from uniting. That's what the documentary says anyways. I've kind of got mixed reviews about it, and I like to give it time to actually see what comes out of it, see if Jordan Peterson responds. He can respond, he can do an online whatever. I'm sure someone may question him about it, but I like to give it a little bit of time and see what happens. There was also the rumour about him taking over some kind of cult Pepe figure. So he was doing these slanty talks on the internet with his messages, short abbreviations and stuff. Very clicky. And he also had some kind of weird symbolic holy kind of flame around his head when he was doing this Pepe interview. It's a symbolism, and it's also marketing. So definitely look into this Jordan Peterson Dismantled documentary, calling him the chameleon charlatan. People are pushing him to be the, wolf in sheep's clothing, for other words. So, like I said, I've got mixed reviews, and it definitely is interesting. So, check that out for yourself. I just got into what I found to be the biggest highlights of it. Yeah, man, you're a big fan of Jordan Peterson, and you definitely have researched him for a long time, and pretty much been around since he started on the whole left-wing kind of politics.
Look, Peterson's he's a great clinical psychologist, and I think that he's a smart man, very wise man. I don't think irrespective of whether he's worked for Soros or on the UN or whatever, that doesn't invalidate what he says. The things he says, it's things he say, like most of them, I'd say, they're great. Like I believe in most of what he says. Not everything, but like for example, the whole individualism argument. Now, individualism in its current sense is, to me, it's a shit thing. I believe in individualism in the sense of like we all live our own lives. We have to manifest our own destinies. The decisions that we make in our lives, will determine our path, and and that we have to self-preservation, look after our families and such. Yes, like on an individual sense, that's right. That's how we should live our lives. However, on a collective scale, and especially in circumstances in a nation or when a community is at crisis, you know, it's up to these people to voluntarily take part in something which is, you know, for if the town floods, you know, people are going to have to voluntarily take up action to help clean the town and repair things, right? And we've been through 2 floods, man. Like, a few people do it, and it's good, but most people don't. Most people were too individualistic not to give a shit, you know? And now think of it on a larger scale when it's a government and the way it's operating. You know, like, I believe there needs to be a balance because this hyper-individualism's led to this self-indulgent fucking materialistic lifestyle now where everyone's like, oh, me, millennials, you know, or I have to, it's only about me and my luxury brands and having the newest pair of Nikes or Adidas and all this bullshit, petty, like, fake stuff, man. And we're completely blind, well, not blinded, but just apathetic and indifferent to the problems that are going on in our country, where collectivism at an extreme is like, you know, communism, bro. It's like, you're just a number working in a factory, and collectivism at an extreme is a whole other bad thing. So it needs to be a healthy balance, man. It needs to be a healthy balance. It needs that you need a society where people can have an individual identity and make their own individual lives and choices and careers and what they want to be. But at the same time, like, when there is a time that's in need, when the community or the country there's problems, people need to put that selfish mentality aside and start, like, and you know, unite together. It's like an individual can create a great idea, but they'll never be able to enforce it by themselves. You know, like, they'll need other people to help with sourcing and getting things done. You know, like, it's you need a collective of people to make something happen. But the difference is you need a collective of people who have a mission and a solution. When they, you know, not just tear down the system and then, like, fight over each other over who's going to run the new system. Because that's the next thing after anarchy, is that, you know, all of these left-wing groups that held hands together one time at marches and protests are now killing each other because they're fighting over should they maintain an anarchist society and or communist or socialist or anarcho-capitalist and all these different fucking subgroups, man.
Yeah, I didn't want to be biased on the subject too, but also for a point for John Peterson's benefit in this one, but when he was calling the nationalism rising in Europe regressive, it was also during the period when Nazis, I guess you'd call them neo-Nazis, were actually rising in Sweden and Germany and had large marches and stuff. So during that period of time when he called it...
You mean Nazis? Neo-Nazis are like contemporary, like, you know, after the whole World War II period.
Yeah.
Yeah, like... Yeah,
look, so that I was saying that...
what are you saying?
That was justifiable, and that's why I was very cautious with the video, because people screw up when they say stuff, and people say stuff that they regret, and there was the current situation of the time when he said it that was different, which was a few years ago. So now nationalism is evolving, and we do look at nationalism. Oh, there was small groups. There was groups, obviously, and they probably rose nationalism, and it was a bit radical. But I think we are improving, and I think he should probably say that too.
Well, nationalism's so bad, you know, half of those people who preach it are the same ones to wave their country flag at the Olympics, or to, you know, have a state of origin team, or a favourite sports team, or a favourite, you know, like, these people, like, nationalism in its most beautiful sense is like what you'd see at the Olympic Games. You know, people cheering on and loving their own athletes in their country, but at the same time cheering and supporting the athletes from other countries and being impressed by the spectacles of how they perform. And that's how it should be. It should be, we should prioritise our people first, and we should even try to push the point that we become pioneers again, and we innovators and architects of new paradigms and philosophies and a whole new scape to the future. And we should be promoting that in our nationalism. You know, there's so many different connotations of how people take nationalism. You know, there's racial nationalists who not just think, you know, support their country or have a love of their country, but they for example, they think other people from other races are inferior or should be killed or just shouldn't live there or something. You know, should all be segregated. And there's different levels of extremities when it comes to interpreting nationalism. And I'm quite a strong, hardcore, staunch nationalist myself. However, that doesn't mean that it comes at the expense of what I think about other nations. You know, I think that we need to maintain good relations with other countries, but it's like your family. You know, everyone has that bias to their family. You have to love you know, would you rather, you know, your brother die or your mum or dad die just to save a complete stranger? You know, like if it was out of a stranger and your own mum, and you just say, oh, it's good. I'll pick the stranger to live. You know, I'll let you die. You know, that's insanity. That's disgusting. You know, that's immoral. So you have to love your family, and when you extend that to a macrocosm, you know, as a microcosm as an individual to our country, then our country is our family, and we have to treat the same as such. And